I still remember the expression on his face when I walked into that room. It was just an ordinary Tuesday, and I was tackling the long overdue cleaning of our shared living space. Nathan had moved in 6 months ago after his father married my mother, and while they enjoyed their extended honeymoon cruise, we were left to coexist in this old Victorian house that suddenly felt too small. I was gathering dirty laundry from the bathroom floor when I accidentally pushed his bedroom door open. The hinges had always been loose, making doors swing open with the slightest touch. When I looked up, Nathan stood there, fresh from the shower with droplets of water on his body. Our eyes locked for what felt like an eternity. I froze, the laundry basket clutched tightly against my chest like a shield. The moment lasted only seconds, but it changed everything between us. In his eyes I saw something shift, something that shouldn't have been there. And worse, I felt something inside me respond to it. "Sarah, he began, but I quickly backed away. "I'm so sorry," I stammered, my voice barely audible. "The door, it wasn't locked." I hurried away, my heart pounding against my ribs. At 28, I should have been able to handle an awkward situation with my 30-year-old stepbrother with more composure. But as I rushed down the hallway, all I could think about was the way he had looked at me, and how that look had stirred something I'd been trying to ignore since he first moved in. I reached the laundry room and shut the door behind me, leaning against it as I tried to steady my breathing. I had known Nathan for years before our parents got married. We'd grown up in the same neighborhood, occasionally crossing paths at community events. But I had never looked at him the way I did today, as a man, not just my mother's husband's son. And judging by his expression, he had seen me differently too. The washing machine's hum filled the silence as I tried to focus on sorting clothes, desperate to think about anything else. But my mind kept returning to that moment, to his damp hair after the shower, to the way his eyes had widened when he saw me. "Get it together, Sarah," I muttered to myself. "This is ridiculous." For the rest of the day, I made myself scarce, throwing myself into cleaning every corner of the house except his room. I scrubbed floors that didn't need scrubbing and organized shelves that were already organized. By evening, my hands were raw from cleaning products, but my mind was still in turmoil. I was in the kitchen preparing dinner when I heard his footsteps. The atmosphere instantly thickened with tension. Nathan leaned against the doorframe, now fully dressed in jeans and a casual shirt that somehow made him look more imposing than he had earlier. "I thought we should talk about what happened," he said, his voice lower than usual. I kept my eyes fixed on the vegetables I was chopping. "Nothing happened. I accidentally opened your door. End of story. Is that really all it was?" His question hung in the air between us. My knife paused mid-slice. What else would it be? Nathan took a step closer. I noticed he was standing close behind me as he helped. "I've seen the way you look at me sometimes, Sarah, when you think I'm not paying attention." My stomach tightened. "I don't know what you're talking about." "I think you do." His voice was gentle, not accusing. "And I think you've noticed how I look at you too." I turned to face him then, knife still in hand, creating a barrier between us. "We're step-siblings, Nathan. Whatever you think is happening, it can't." His eyes held mine steadily. "Our parents married 6 months ago. We've known each other since we were teenagers, but we never grew up together. We're not related." He paused, gauging my reaction. "But if you're not feeling what I'm feeling, just say the word, and I'll never bring it up again." That was the moment I should have ended it. I should have told him clearly that there was nothing between us, that what he was suggesting was inappropriate. Instead, I stood there, silent, my denial caught in my throat. "That's what I thought," he said softly. The days that followed were charged with an electricity that made the air feel heavy every time we occupied the same space. We circled each other cautiously, neither willing to acknowledge what had been said, yet unable to return to how things were before. I threw myself into my cleaning frenzy, determined to keep busy, to keep my thoughts from wandering down dangerous paths. One afternoon, I was struggling to reach a vase on the top shelf of the living room cabinet. Standing on tiptoes, my fingers barely brushed the bottom of it. Suddenly, Nathan was there behind me, his chest almost touching my back as he reached up effortlessly to grab the vase. "Here," he said, his breath warm against my ear as he handed it to me. "You should have asked for help." I took the vase, acutely aware of how close he was standing. "I could have used a stool." His lips curved into a half smile. "But then I wouldn't have had a reason to help you." The way his eyes lingered on me made my skin tingle with awareness. I clutched the vase tighter, using it as an excuse to step away. "I should finish dusting these shelves." He nodded, but didn't move immediately. You know, you've been cleaning nonstop since that morning. Are you trying to scrub away what happened, Sarah? Or what almost happened? I bristled at his directness. I'm just trying to get the house in order before Mom and your dad get back. They won't be back for another 3 weeks, he pointed out. At this rate, you'll have cleaned every surface twice by then. He was right, of course. My cleaning obsession was just a distraction, a way to keep my hands busy and my mind off him. But I wasn't ready to admit that. Some of us take pride in living in a clean environment, I replied more sharply than I intended. Nathan held up his hands in surrender. I'm not criticizing, just concerned. You're working yourself to exhaustion. His concern felt genuine, which somehow made it harder to maintain my defenses. I'm fine, I insisted. Just busy. He studied me for a moment longer, then nodded. Okay, but if you need help with anything, anything at all, I'm here. The emphasis he placed on anything wasn't lost on me. As he walked away, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. The vase in my hand suddenly felt heavy, and I carefully set it down on the coffee table, trying to ignore the lingering scent of his cologne in the air. That night, as I lay in bed, unable to sleep, I heard soft music coming from downstairs. Curious, I wrapped my robe around me and padded quietly down the stairs. Nathan was in the living room, sitting on the couch with a glass of whiskey in hand, staring out the window at the night sky. He looked up when he heard me. Did I wake you? I can turn it down. No, I was already awake, I admitted, hovering uncertainly in the doorway. Couldn't sleep. Me neither, he gestured to the space beside him. Join me? I hesitated, then moved to sit at the opposite end of the couch, tucking my legs under me. We sat in silence for a while, listening to the soft jazz playing in the background. Sarah, he finally said, I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable earlier, and that day in my room. I didn't mean to. I glanced over at him. In the dim light, his features were softer, his usual confidence tempered by genuine regret. It's okay, I said. It was just unexpected. Which part? He asked, walking in on me or what I said afterward. I fidgeted with the tie of my robe. Both, I guess. He took a sip of his whiskey. Can I ask you something? Sure, I replied, though I felt a flutter of nervousness. Are you afraid of what you might feel or what others might think? The question caught me off guard. What do you mean? I mean, if our parents weren't married, if we were just two people who knew each other and felt this connection, would you still be pulling away? I considered his question seriously. I don't know, I answered honestly, but our parents are married. That makes things complicated. Life is full of complications, he said. That doesn't mean we should ignore what's real. And what exactly is real, Nathan? I asked, finally voicing the question that had been haunting me. He set his glass down and turned to face me fully. This, whatever is happening between us. I've never felt this kind of pull towards someone before, have you? I wanted to lie, to tell him he was imagining things, that the tension between us was one-sided, but I couldn't. No, I admitted, I haven't. Something in his expression shifted, a flash of victory quickly masked by tenderness. He moved closer on the couch, closing the distance I had carefully maintained. We're both adults, Sarah, free to make our own choices. Not all choices are wise, I countered, though I didn't move away. Wisdom is overrated, he murmured, his hand coming up to tuck a strand of hair behind my ear. The simple touch sent electricity through me. Sometimes what feels right is right. I knew I should get up, walk away, end this conversation before it went any further. But I remained rooted to the spot, my body betraying my better judgment. Nathan, I whispered, but I wasn't sure if I was pleading with him to stop or to continue. His fingers traced the line of my jaw, gentle and questioning. Tell me to stop and I will, he said, his voice husky with restraint. I should have. I knew I should have. Instead, I sat there, silent, as he leaned in slowly, giving me every opportunity to pull away. When his lips finally touched mine, it was soft and brief, a question more than a declaration. The next day brought clarity and with it, renewed determination. I had pulled away after that brief moment, making an excuse about being tired, and hurried back to my room. Morning light had a way of making nighttime vulnerabilities seem foolish. I threw myself back into cleaning with even more vigor, as if I could scrub away the memory of his lips on mine. Nathan had left early, saying something about errands, which gave me space to think. I decided to tackle the storage room, a space that hadn't been properly organized in years. It was physical work, requiring me to move boxes and furniture, perfect for burning off restless energy. I was on a ladder, trying to reach a box labeled winter clothes on a high shelf, when I heard him return. The door to the storage room opened, and Nathan stood there watching me stretch to reach the box. Need some help? He offered, his eyes following the line of my body as I reached upward. "I've got it," I insisted, straining to push the box toward the edge of the shelf. He moved closer anyway. "You're going to hurt yourself. Let me." As if on cue, my foot slipped on the ladder rung. I let out a small cry as I began to fall backward, but Nathan was there instantly, catching me against his chest. The impact knocked us both off balance, and we stumbled back against the wall, his arms wrapped securely around me. For a moment we stayed like that, my back pressed against his chest, his breath warm against my neck. I could feel his heart racing, or maybe it was mine, perhaps both. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice close to my ear. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. His arms loosened, but he didn't let go completely, his hands settling on my waist to steady me. "You need to be more careful," he said, turning me to face him. His eyes searched mine, concern evident. What if I hadn't been here? "I was managing fine before you came in," I pointed out, trying to ignore the way his touch seared through the thin fabric of my shirt. His lips quirked. "Were you? Because from where I was standing you were about to take a nasty fall." I stepped back, creating some distance between us. I would have caught myself. Nathan's expression turned serious. "Why is it so hard for you to accept help, Sarah? Not just with reaching things or moving boxes, but with everything." The question felt loaded, like we weren't just talking about physical assistance anymore. "I'm used to doing things on my own," I said defensively. "That doesn't mean you have to," he replied. "Sometimes it's okay to lean on someone else." I turned away, busying myself with straightening some items on a shelf. "Is that what you want? For me to lean on you?" "I want you to stop pretending there's nothing between us," he said bluntly. "I want you to be honest, with yourself, if not with me." His directness left me momentarily speechless. I had been so careful to maintain boundaries, to keep our interactions superficial. But here he was, tearing down those walls with a few simple words. "What happened last night was a mistake," I said finally, not looking at him. "It can't happen again." "Was it really a mistake?" he challenged. "Or are you just scared?" I spun around to face him. "Of course I'm scared. Our parents are married, Nathan. They're happy together. What do you think would happen if they found out about whatever this is?" "They would adjust," he said with a confidence I couldn't comprehend. "They're adults too. They would understand." Understand what? That while they were away, their children were... I stopped, unable to even complete the thought. "We're what, Sarah?" he pressed, taking a step closer. "We're falling for each other? Because I'm falling for you. I have been since before they even got married." His admission stunned me into silence. I'd suspected attraction, maybe lust, but not feelings, not something deeper. "You don't mean that," I said weakly. "I do." His eyes held mine, unwavering. "I've never been more certain of anything." I shook my head, refusing to believe him. "You can't. It's not right." "Says who?" he challenged. "Society, our parents. What about what we feel?" "Feelings aren't always reliable," I argued. "Sometimes they lead us places we shouldn't go." Nathan's hand reached out to touch my cheek, so gently it was like the brush of a feather. "And sometimes they lead us exactly where we're meant to be." I closed my eyes, fighting the part of me that wanted to lean into his touch. "Nathan, please, don't make this harder than it already is." "I'm not trying to make it hard. I'm trying to make it simple." His hand brushed my cheek gently. "It's just you and me here. No one else. No opinions, no judgments. Just us and what we feel." When I opened my eyes, he was so close I could see the flecks of gold in his deep brown irises. The air between us crackled with tension, with possibility. "I need to finish cleaning," I said, but the excuse sounded hollow even to my own ears. "The cleaning can wait," he murmured, his eyes never leaving mine. "Some things are more important." I knew I was at a crossroads. The rational part of me urged caution, restraint, reminding me of all the reasons this was wrong. But another part, a part I'd been denying for too long, whispered that he was right, that what was between us deserved a chance. "I don't know what to do," I confessed, my voice barely audible. "Yes, you do," he said softly. "You're just afraid to do it." The truth of his words hit me like a physical force. I was afraid, terrified, really, of taking this step, of admitting what I felt, of risking everything for something that might not even last. "What if it goes wrong?" I asked. "What if it ruins everything, not just between us, but for our parents too?" "What if it doesn't?" he countered. "What if this is the beginning of something amazing? Are you willing to throw that away without even giving it a chance?" I stood there, torn between fear and desire, between caution and courage. Nathan waited patiently, giving me the space to decide, his eyes never leaving mine. "I need time," I said finally. I need to think." He nodded slowly. "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." For the next few days, we moved around each other cautiously. the conversation in the storage room hanging between us like a suspended moment. I continued cleaning, but with less frantic energy, more contemplation. Nathan gave me the space I'd asked for, but I could feel his eyes on me sometimes, waiting, hoping. The evening of the 5th day after our conversation, I found myself in the kitchen, preparing dinner. Nathan had been out most of the day, and the house felt emptier without his presence, a fact that bothered me more than it should have. I was reaching for plates in the high cabinet when I heard the front door open and close. Footsteps approached the kitchen, and I turned to see Nathan leaning against the doorframe, watching me. "Need help?" he asked, nodding toward the plates I was struggling to reach. I hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, actually, I do." Something in my tone must have alerted him that I wasn't just talking about the plates. He crossed the kitchen slowly, reaching up to easily grab 2 plates from the shelf. As he handed them to me, our fingers brushed, and I didn't pull away. "Thank you," I said, meeting his eyes directly. "You're welcome," he replied, holding my gaze. "For the record, asking for help wasn't so bad, was it?" A small smile tugged at my lips. "I'm still getting used to it." We stood there, close enough that I could smell his cologne, a subtle woody scent that had become distressingly familiar to me. "I've been thinking," I said finally. "That sounds promising," he responded, a hint of hope in his voice. I set the plates down on the counter. "I'm still scared, Nathan. I'm scared of what this means, what might happen. But I'm also scared of letting fear make my decisions for me." His expression softened. "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying," I took a deep breath, "I'm saying I want to try, to see where this goes, but slowly, carefully." The smile that broke across his face was like the sun emerging from behind clouds. "Slowly and carefully," he agreed, reaching out to take my hand. "We can do that." He interlaced his fingers with mine, a simple gesture that felt enormously significant. "Are you sure, Sarah? I don't want you to do this for me. It has to be what you want, too." "I'm sure," I said, and as the words left my mouth, I realized they were true. "I've never felt this way before either. I think that means something." Nathan gently pulled me closer, his free hand coming up to cup my cheek. "Can I kiss you now? Properly this time?" I nodded, my heart racing as he leaned in, his lips meeting mine with a tenderness that made my knees weak. This wasn't like the brief kiss we'd shared before. This was intentional, a beginning rather than a question. Later that night, we sat on the couch together, talking about everything and nothing. My head rested on his shoulder as he played with my fingers, tracing patterns on my palm. "What are we going to tell our parents?" I asked, voicing the concern that still lingered. "The truth," he said simply, "that we have feelings for each other, and we're exploring what that means. They might be surprised at first, but they'll understand. They know us, Sarah. They know we wouldn't do anything to hurt them." His confidence was reassuring. "I hope you're right." "I am," he said, kissing the top of my head. "Trust me on this." And strangely, I did trust him. Despite all my fears and doubts, I felt safe with Nathan in a way I never had with anyone else. A week later, the house was spotless. I had finally run out of things to clean, which left me with more time to spend with Nathan. We had settled into a new rhythm, learning to be together without the barriers I had so carefully maintained before. On Friday evening, Nathan suggested we have a proper date. "I want to cook for you," he said, "something special." I raised an eyebrow. "You cook?" "There's a lot you don't know about me yet," he replied with a grin. "Consider this the first of many discoveries." I was banished from the kitchen while he prepared dinner, told to relax and stop thinking about cleaning for 5 minutes. I took a long shower, put on a casual dress I knew looked good on me, and waited in the living room with curious anticipation. When he finally called me to dinner, the dining room had been transformed. Candles flickered on the table, casting a warm glow over the carefully arranged settings. Soft music played in the background, and the scent of something delicious filled the air. Nathan stood beside the table, looking pleased with himself. "What do you think?" "I think I'm impressed," I admitted, taking in the scene. "This is beautiful." He pulled out my chair. "Only the best for you." Dinner was surprisingly excellent, a perfectly cooked steak with roasted vegetables and a rich wine sauce. We talked and laughed, the ease between us growing with each passing minute. "When did you learn to cook like this?" I asked, savoring the last bite. "My first roommate after college was a chef," he explained. "He taught me the basics. I've been practicing ever since." "Well, I'm officially putting you in charge of dinner from now on," I declared, raising my wine glass in a toast. He clinked his glass against mine. "Deal, as long as you keep handling the cleaning." I laughed. "I think I've cleaned enough for a lifetime this past week." After dinner, we moved to the living room. The wine had loosened my inhibitions, and when Nathan pulled me down beside him on the couch, I didn't resist. His arm around my shoulders felt right, natural, as if it had always belonged there. "I never thought this would happen," I confessed, looking up at him. "Us, I mean." "I did," he said, surprising me. "Not right away, but after living here with you for a few weeks, I knew there was something special between us. I just wasn't sure you'd ever admit it." "I'm stubborn," I acknowledged. "Extremely," he agreed with a chuckle, earning a playful swat on his chest. "But also principled and kind and more beautiful than you realize." His words made me blush. "You're not so bad yourself," I teased. We fell into comfortable silence, the music and the wine and the flickering candlelight creating an atmosphere of quiet intimacy. "Nathan," I said after a while. "What made you decide to finally say something? After that day in your room?" He considered my question. "I guess I saw something in your eyes that gave me hope, and I was tired of pretending. Life's too short to ignore how you feel about someone." I thought about his answer, about how close we had come to never exploring what was between us because of fear and societal expectations. "I'm glad you did," I said finally, "even though it scared me." "Sometimes the best things do," he replied, his fingers gently tilting my chin up so he could kiss me. What started as a gentle touch had grown into this moment. "Sarah," he said softly, his voice full of care, "tell me if this is too much." I shook my head, beyond words, as his lips traced a path down my throat. My fingers fumbled with the buttons of his shirt. When he took my hand climbing the stairs, I felt a moment of clarity amidst the whirlwind of emotions. This was right. This was where I belonged. In the silence of the evening, we shared this moment that strengthened our bond. Every moment we shared deepened our connection, making me feel whole in a new way. The way he said my name with care, the way he looked at me with understanding, it was a deep emotional connection. It was recognition, belonging, finding home in another person. Later, when we were together, his presence brought me comfort. I wondered how something that others might not understand could feel so perfectly right. Had we crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed? Perhaps. But in that moment, with Nathan's arms around me and the world quiet outside, I couldn't bring myself to regret a single step that had led us here. Have you ever found yourself caught between what society expects and what your heart desires? How do you know when to follow the rules and when to break them for something that feels unquestionably right?
This is an artistic and fictional creation intended for both entertainment and educational purposes. Any resemblance to actual people or events is purely coincidental. Some scenes and dialogues in the video are part of a dramatized performance and incorporate elements of grotesque, satire, and exaggeration. The creator stands against discrimination, violence, and hatred. This channel fully complies with YouTube's policies and does not infringe upon copyright laws.